Open Innovation, fast-track modernization innovation with GenAI tools and services. Please welcome Robert Steinman, Charles Wright, and moderator Madhu Magadi.
So, my name is Madhu Magadi. I'm a CTO from Client Growth Office, NTT DATA. I just want to thank you. Thanks for Chris Shah, who organizes this event, NTT Upgrade, MassCon, our NPI champion, and Megan, who orchestrate many of these things in the background. So I just wanted to make sure that we thank them for giving us an opportunity to express and share a few things about AI and the two interesting complementary topics that we have today. One is legacy modernization using AI. Another one is how to eliminate fraud using AI through a dynamic CVV. So both these solutions are powered by our partner, Charles Wright, CEO of Mechanized AI, Robert Steinman, CEO of Kino. Now, I wanted them to introduce. Before that, let me give you some of the market statistics. In terms of legacy modernization, it's around in excess of 1.5 trillion. That's the market. So it's a large enough pie for many AI players to do it, and we are doing it in a distinctive way. Then when it comes to fraud, AI in fraud, and even the global market is around in excess of 100 billion. And North America accounts for around 25% of it. And then Europe is roughly around 30%, and there is a large percent in Asia Pac. So now with a 10-15% penetration from an AI side is a huge market for us. So I'm sure Robert will dwell upon it. But when they introduce Robert, I want you to also share your learnings about working with NTT, how this partnership is evolving.
So my journey with NTT started last year at the Innovation Lab, and I'd like to thank Maz, who really helped us initiate this, as well as Madhu and Megan for bringing us forward and introducing us to everybody. And then Arsen and Ryan from the FS sales team really made this become reality. So we first had to share what we do and then get a master service agreement. So now we're able to call on financial institutions and provide turnkey solutions. And for us, it increased our exposure to banks probably 10 times what it was before. Probably involved in 15 or 20 major proposals today, where before we started, it was only a couple of years, all we could handle.
Charles?
Yes, thanks, Madhu. Last year was our first year at Upgrade, so we're really excited to come back this year. It's been a journey, as Madhu mentioned. MozCon, our innovation sponsor, Megan, who always puts on great events. But really, to be honest with you, the evolution of how we got here today is really a testament to partnership. Madhu specifically, I remember our first conversation. The first day, within a week of me starting as CEO, my first conversation was with Madhu. And the first thing he said to me, Charles, is, I know you have an AI factory solution that builds great AI. Have you thought about legacy transformation? And so, I have to give Madhu his flowers, because he's the one who actually spurned the market for us. Because this is, as he mentioned, a multi-trillion dollar market cap where we could actually penetrate using AI. So our initial vision was to build great AI products that were agentic, and this was before the agentic wave had started. I mean, we were doing this 2 years ago. And Madhu said, no, Charles, you have a great product, but how about make money? So that's he brought his fintech mindset to the conversation around, look, there's money in this. This is not just about great products. And so that's really how our journey started together. And it's been a partnership that we've built upon. And I remember our first pipeline was 55,000. Our pipeline today is almost 300 million. So if you could talk about that growth trajectory and shared vision, that's really where our partnership continues to grow, and we continue to tackle some of the really challenging use cases. So we'll talk about that more.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Charles, let me start with you. How does mechanized AI platform or AI factory or AI fabric, there are multiple evolution of this, addresses the challenge of legacy, especially touch upon technology debt?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, and our initial conversations was, it's not about just to use AI to solve tomorrow's problem. What we're looking at is yesterday's problem, and yesterday's problem goes back 60 years. If you really want to start to analyze how the problems of legacy code exist in the market, one quote that came from a big consulting firm was 70% of all the code in Fortune 500 is over 30 years old. 70%. So these enterprises are running in technical debt. They're running less secure product sets. They can't innovate because the stack can't be upgraded. And so because of that, we are sitting in a market right now that is really ours to really take. And we talked about how many lines of code exist. I think we're properly positioned with our NTT partnership and their relationships to really address it. So.
Great.
Thank you.
So now with that, now I'll change. So I'll be doing this back and forth, right? Now what Charles talked about is a true horizontal. Now I'm going deep into vertical aspects of financial services. So Robert, how does Kino's dynamic CVV first explain the concept, and then how it impacts fraud prevention metrics for financial institutions?
Sure. I'm sure most of us have had to replace a card, a credit or debit card at some point in your life. And it's never a pleasant experience. And unfortunately, it's actually increasing. The amount of fraud is going up. And as AI comes about, the fraudsters are actually out there before the rest of us in doing it. What Kino does is we provide a dynamic CVV2. It's the 3 digits printed on your back of your card. We make them an authentication key. They validate at the network level as the transaction's flowing over either Visa or MasterCard on its way to the bank's processing, so it's very easy for the banks to implement it. Visa did a case study on us, and it prevented more than 95% of fraud. So it's something that's highly effective from a consumer perspective. The only thing you do differently is you look for the 3-digit code on your phone. About 60% of all transactions are based off your phone today. So having all your card details and all the information and a changing code on your phone makes sense for what most people do every day. So it really fits into where payments are going, and it prevents the majority of fraud. So that makes it very easy for people to trust the networks and to make purchases with your credit or debit card.
Robert, does it differ when you look at from a let's talk about payment transaction from an acquisition perspective for an acquirer or for an issuer?
Sure, good question. So from the acquiring side, there's no difference. The merchants are not allowed to store your CVV2 code. So they simply ask for it, and you simply put in the code that's in your phone. It doesn't change when you enter the code. It's only for online transactions. It only changes the number that will validate. So in this case, they simply look on their phone in the banking app, find the 3 digits that are good at that moment, enter that, and they're done. And then all the systems on the way, the risk-based systems, notice that it's a dynamic code, and therefore you're not having other friction along the way, because banks trust it more, your transactions approvals go up. And as I mentioned, Visa, MasterCard validate the code on the way to the bank. So when it gets to the bank, they already have all the information they need. They can instantly approve or decline the transaction.
Thank you, Robert. Now, Charles, would you be able to cite a few examples? I know there could be non-disclosure agreements, but in the confines of it, if you can share an example where AI factory significantly reduced the modernization efforts and both time and cost.
Yeah, so we've had multiple pursuits together over the last year, and one of the main ideas that came out from the client feedback from what using our product and using NTC services was the significant timeline reduction in getting to preparation for their transformation journey, right? So when you look at the magnitude of code, right, some of these applications are in the millions, 15, 20 million lines of code. Though that is a 5-year project, right? So if you want to upgrade that one application, that's 5 years, right? And so with our capabilities and our agentic AI approach, we are able to reduce it almost 75% in the time. So what does that do? That gets the client to the outcome they're looking for faster, and this is what we've been able to actually demonstrate. And secondly, there's more volume for us as a company to do, right? So clients can be more aggressive with their transformation journeys because we're moving. Remember, because of our agentic flow, we're removing people. We don't remove all the people, but we want to reduce the size of the people footprint so that that same footprint can deliver 5 projects, 10 projects, instead of being tied to one project for 5 years. So you can look at it from multiple perspectives: reducing error, cutting down timelines, reducing costs, getting clients to the outcome they want. The transformation journeys are very arduous and painful. By taking that timeline and condensing it, removing the time, the pain, the time, the effort, it allows you to have a more pleasant working experience with your clients as well. So it all ties in. And I think we've demonstrated it. And I think in one instance, in one specific client, they were not really excited about doing transformation in general. Once we were able to demonstrate how fast we can get to their outcome, their eyes opened and they said, you know, we have about 500 additional projects we want to take on. So that's what the revenue opportunities opens up when you can actually deliver things in that time frame.
Great, thank you. Now, will you be able to synthesize it from a, I'm just going a little bit deeper into modernization, and say what is pure AI, Gen AI, agentic AI, and then the AIS, right? The swarm, this thing. So how do you see that, right?
I can't tell you anything. So I mentioned this at dinner, and now he's going to bring it up today. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, our company, we're an AI-first company. Madhu drug us into the legacy transformation experience. So our process is very scientific. So our team is heavily AI and ML folks. We don't have a lot of consulting, which is why we depend on NTT DATA's team. But our approach has always been looking at the next innovation, right? So people this year, if you notice, everything, last year was Gen AI, this year's agentic AI. Next year is going to be Swarm. So just for you guys who don't understand Swarm or how it's in an infancy it is, we are very experimenting and developing capabilities where we're not going from agentic AI, which everyone just started, where they're using step functions to communicate the process, to a swarm methodology, which allows the AI to communicate amongst themselves. So they become self-aware and intelligent and communicative. By you taking that approach, we're removing all of the code, right? Our code base is 100,000 lines of code around this beautiful application we built. We're reducing our own code base by 80% by using this swarm methodology. Now, for those people who want to run out Google Swarm right now, every library you use is not going to be very good. So we've been taking our own library and we've been building on it and experimenting over the last year. That's the difference when you're mentioning our approach. As I mentioned, we're an AI-first company. We think about tomorrow's AI, but we're still thinking about the problem that's behind us. So that's our methodology, that's our thinking, but that's the future. The future is going to be AI agents outside communicating, processing amongst themselves, building outcomes.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to switch back to Robert. Robert, basically we, especially Kino, the joint solution operates in a highly regulated industries. There is too much of competition, there is a lot of fraud, there is a regulatory pressures. Sure. So I just wanted to understand some of the challenges, what do you face while integrating these into an existing banking or a financial institution ecosystem?
Sure. So there's always more projects at a financial institution than there is time to do them. And a lot of them do not necessarily have a good business case. This one can save banks literally hundreds of millions of dollars, even a moderate-sized bank. But they need resources. So by working with NTT, we're able to provide all the resources the bank would need to actually implement the solution, to integrate it into the bank's app and into their new card activation and onboarding. And then it becomes just a business discussion. This is how much it's upfront, this is how much it takes to maintain it annually, but look at your savings. And by doing it that way, we're able to really rapidly scale this and really get a lot more banks to do it that otherwise are tied up doing compliance or doing whatever they actually have to do. Because almost every bank that I know has 2 or 3 years worth of development already in the queue.
Thank you, Robert. Now, little bit about when we were talking, you were mentioning about the motivation aspects of a financial institution, how it will create a network effect. If you could elaborate a little bit.
So the rule of thumb with financial institutions is a lot of them follow each other. And as soon as you get a few key names in a particular geography, then other ones tend to follow after that because you've now de-risked it. They have somebody doing it, they simply say the bank across the street is doing it, so therefore we need to do it as well. And you really get this very much amplification effect. So it goes slowly and then all of a sudden it comes in a big wave. And the advantage of working with NTT is that they can handle the big wave, that they have that staff, that it is scalable. So that's pretty much where we're at. We've proven the solution works. We have both Visa and MasterCard on board as partners in the solution, and now it's just getting it deployed. And NTT helps us greatly with that.
Yeah. And Robert, sorry, I'm asking one more. A related question is, do you see interoperability emerging amongst various card brands or schemes, right?
So, card brands are many layers. You know them as brands. Your transactions do not actually travel always on the brand itself. In the United States, for example, on your debit card, there's always 2 sets of processes, 2 rails picked by the merchant. So your Visa card could travel on MasterCard, which sounds kind of odd, but that's the way the regulations are set up. So the government has set it up that way so there is more competition between the different brands, certainly at the merchant level. But they all maintain their own identity and they all promote themselves. But at the infrastructure level, there is more cross-utilization of the infrastructure.
Thank you, Robert. Charles, from some of the risks that key enterprises or the enterprises need to consider, and then also what are all your recommendations, what you have seen adopting GenAI or agentic AI from a application modernization. And I know that there is several layers of modernization, but when I'm specifically focused on application modernization first, and then also provide insight into data as a service.
Yeah, so there's a couple, you hit on a couple issues there. I think one of the biggest challenges, I think, in the enterprise specifically, and we've seen this in our journey, is that clients, when they pick vendors and choose check stacks, they tend to get married to their solutions, right? I mean, we understand enterprise, to onboard to an enterprise client, it takes months, maybe years. So they don't just hot swap tech left and right. And the challenge with generative AI, agentic AI, and all of the capabilities that we're bringing to bear, and as the fact that AI today is going to be the worst it's going to be, right? And tomorrow it's going to be significantly better. These vendors have aligned themselves or misaligned themselves, in my opinion, with solutions that are now outdated and not scalable, right? And so that's problematic. Secondly, there's a lot of companies that are legacy in themselves in this business that have brand names, but are not able to compete with us because our futuristic approach to transformation. So a lot of companies are still toiling away with terrible outcomes, slower processing, because they, financial services in general are not quick to adopt new technology, right? So those are some of the challenges. And you mentioned data, for instance, data ops. Part of our solution, what makes our solution differentiated, and I always talk about this, is that we talk about AI first, right? So we built an AI factory. And our AI factory allows us to manage data, do data ops, do ML ops, does LLM ops. So if you think about it, it's an entire ecosystem platform. So when we build these solutions on top of them, they benefit from the foundational capabilities that lie beneath them, right? So if you look at different stacks, right, we're not a AI wrapper company, right? And I mean, that's been kind of a negative term in AI in general. I guess it's almost a slur, really, if you think about it. If you call an AI company AI wrapper, it's pretty insulting. So, I don't want to lean into it, but we're not that. And so because we built our solution to hot swap all the public AIs, all the private AI availability, we're able to scale indefinitely, and we're able to scale to do creative things. And just to tap into, legacy code specifically, we actually we had a conversation with a massive bank, I think, I believe it was Monday. We started talking about legacy code, and they said, well, we have legacy infrastructure. And I'm like, oh, well, we have something for that too. So now that conversation started with legacy code and turned into how can we transform their legacy infrastructure? And this is a massive opportunity that we didn't know was gonna happen. And so I challenge everyone in the audience that are talking to customers today, talk to your clients, find out what their real problem areas are, and you then come to Madhu, come to us, and you'll be surprised how we can actually solve some of these problems for the clients that the solution had not existed. So I know we have a lot of sellers in the audience. I know we have a lot of people with client relationships. You guys are the tip of the spear, but it's important to find out what the real problem areas are, and then we can actually see how we can solve those problems together. And I think that's what we've been doing since we've been here.
Absolutely. Robert, with the slightly linked to the last question, how do you see the payment security evolving, right, over next 5 years? And especially, what aspects of AI is influencing it?
Sure. So change is accelerating. AI is not just influencing what banks are doing, it's also what fraudsters are doing. And that in order to prevent fraud, a bank has to be right every time, a fraudster only once. So what you're going to see is that the need to change faster is out there because the number of fraud attacks, the number of events that are occurring are accelerating. And they're going to accelerate a lot more as AI becomes more powerful. It's going to become more powerful, not just on the defensive side, but also on the attack side. And you see that in all things out there. And it's really something that change has to happen now. Change has to happen much more fast than it did previously because the environment's becoming a lot more risky.
Thank you. And now with you heard both an horizontal play as well as a vertical play. So I think when you look at it, AI, GenAI, agentic AI, or AIS, or Swarm, will increase incredible amount of straight-through processing. And also it brings a higher degree of risk profiling and some level of automation. And when you take those trainings and those learnings and integrate it with human experts, then you will see a very large money movement, right? Which will shape up, especially where you have the move towards real time is much more advanced. That's one. On the horizontal play side, I think from those specifically regulated industries will benefit, but at the same time, you have an agnosticity which can service supply chain, which can service manufacturing, because legacy exists most of these places. So these are all some of my observations, and it has been a great joy to work with Robert and Charles, and it's been a journey, a year in the making. We have an incredible pipeline built. So just wanted Audience, if you have any specific questions, we'll catch up later. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.